Hey guys, it's Punkavai here for League Top 10, and today we're doing something a little bit differently. Today what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd show you my rune pages, how I have my rune pages set up, so that I could actually provide a little bit of guidance and help for those who are new and as far as picking runes and knowing how to set up your rune pages per champions you play. And the way I have my 3 rune pages set up is so that they can cover a broad range of different types of champions without me having to go and buy a specific rune, to get the best of the best or whatever. So what I have is I have a good balanced rune page for each type. That's attack damage champion, AP, and then tank. So I thought I'd show you exactly what I have, why I chose these runes, and then how they can help you. Now, this doesn't just apply to Tier 3, which is what I'm running with right here. It applies to Tier 1 and Tier 2. I will say out of the bat that if you're new to League of Legends and you're building your rune set, do not buy Tier 2, just simply buy Tier 1, and then wait until you get to level 30, kind of build up your runes, or build up your IP, and then go to Tier 3. Tier 2, it's just not worth it to go Tier 1, Tier 2, and then Tier 3. Just kind of skip the Tier 2, go from Tier 1 to Tier 3. But what I'm about to show you applies to all tier ranges. So these are the rune sets, the actual bonuses that are going to benefit you most overall for a champion type. So to start with, we have my first rune page, which is right here. This is my attack damage rune page. So this is any type of champion that has attack damage as its main stat. This can be both assassin or bruiser based. And as you can see here, for my reds, for my marks, I have armor penetration. Now, overall, that equates to 15 armor penetration. The reason why I have armor penetration is this really helps your early game aggressiveness versus enemy champions and versus minions. Allows you to do a lot more damage to them, and really makes a big difference, especially since champions do come with base armor. So if you're able to cut through some of that base armor, you are able to do more damage to them if they are not running armor penetration. It's huge and it's very important, and I do recommend this as a priority rune to go with. Now for yellows, I actually go with yellow armor for my greater seals. Now the reason I go armor is because as a melee champion, you're going to be in range of both the melee minions and range minions to attack you if you decide to poke at an enemy champion, as well as the fact that if an enemy champion decides to poke at you, you're going to obviously be taking damage from all those sources. So with armor here, what you're able to do is you're able to minimize or mitigate that damage that you actually take from those sources, meaning that you can be more aggressive with less inflicted return of damage. It's great to go armor on him. As you can see, I have 13 armor here, and it's not just for tanks, it's for both melee DPS and tanks, and in some circumstances even AP characters, which I'll get into in just a bit. However, I will say that if you're a champion who does actually benefit from mana regen, say Pantheon, who actually could need that mana regen if you want to be a little bit aggressive with your spear shots early, then I would swap out the armor for mana regeneration. There are only a few circumstances when I would do this, but that would be one of them if you have a melee DPS champion who does spam their abilities quite a bit and could use, in fact, mana regeneration. But most of the time, you are going to go with armor. As you see there, though, I do have mana regeneration queued up and ready just in case. Now, for my blues, for my glyphs, I do end up going either attack speed or cooldown reduction. You've heard me talk about the past where I choose cooldown reduction. Attack speed and cooldown reduction are 2 main priority blues that you can go with depending on the champion type. If it's more of an assassin type, someone who benefits a lot from auto attacking, say for example Nocturne, Elysian, or whoever else, and they're not actually cooldown focused. If they're cooldown focused, you would think of like Renekton or Pantheon. Then, depending on those two, I would choose either cooldown or attack speed. So Renekton, cooldown, Nocturne, attack speed. Now, for my quintessences, I always choose HP quintessences for my AD champions. Again, that's more HP early on. It's almost as much as a Doran Shield. It used to be like practically a Doran Shield because it was 90 HP instead of 78. But if you choose to, for example, go something other than a Doran Shield or Blade early game, you still will have an extra 78 HP to work with rather than the 4 or 5 bars that you would normally have base HP for that champion. So going HP is definitely a good route to go with any type of melee champion. both AD and of course tank, which I'll get into in a bit. So this is my standard AD champion build. This can work for a broad range. Of course, you can swap things out if you're going something more specific. And of course, if you're going something jungle based, you would need to swap some things out depending on the champion so that you could actually jungle more effectively. Now for my page 2, this is my AP champion page here. And so for my AP champion page, what I start out with is the flip side of armor pen, which is magic penetration. Again, this is just based for AP champions, and it does the exact same thing like I talked about for the armor penetration, except it's for your magical based abilities. The only difference is you're not going to benefit from auto attacking a champion as much, obviously, because your auto attacks are going to be AD based, not AP based. And so for this account, obviously most of your damage is going to be coming from magic penetration. And so your ability is going to be hitting much harder with the red runes of Mark of Insight. Now for yellow here, I have mana regeneration. And mana regeneration just kind of helps me spam my abilities that much more. I don't have to be as picky and choosy with them, which means I can be a little bit more aggressive with the mana regeneration. If I'm using an AP character who does not use mana, say for example Kennen or Vladimir, I would swap this out for armor. Armor or AP, depending on what I want to go. If I feel comfortable with being super aggressive with the Kennen or Vladimir, whoever, then I definitely would go AP. But if I'm a little bit more cautious with any type of champion like that, I would go with something like armor, which would help me sustain a little bit more, especially since, I am an AP champion. I am going to have 4 bars pretty much of standard HP for most AP champions when I actually spawn. So either of those can definitely assist you if you do not have mana. Now for blues, it's pretty much a no-brainer. You're going to go with cooldown reduction. AP champions benefit the most from cooldown reduction, just because they are limited by cooldowns for their abilities to cooldowns and mana for some. And so definitely going AP reduction is going to help a bunch. I have a little bit of flat cooldown reduction. I have 1.96, and then I have some at level 18, which is 5.75. So this comes out to a little bit more than 7%, which definitely helps out a lot at getting that down to that cooldown cap. And so I definitely recommend going cooldown reduction in blues. I have seen people go all APs pretty much, and the only problem with going a straight stat like all AP, all attack speed, etc., is that what you run into is it may help your early game, but in reality, your other stats are going to suffer late game. You're going to have to buy one extra, a cooldown reduction, or make sure you get some extra cooldown reduction earlier on. And I feel like with these builds, especially if you're not used to the playstyles of every single champion, these builds help you kind of blanket all those areas and make sure that you have some of these stats covered in all areas. So definitely with most AP champions, this build is going to work out quite well. Now for my tier 3 quintessences, I do go with ability power. I've been playing around with this, either ability power or HP. I like the early HP if I go something other than a Doran's Ring. But if I'm going a Doran's Ring, which I've been kind of favoring lately, I do end up going with ability power because this equals another 15 ability power plus the ability power from my masteries and from the Doran's Ring. So that's quite a hefty amount of ability power, about 30 or so, and that definitely can help you out early game to get an extra kill. So 15 ability power, it's pretty hefty. It's going to help you out quite a bit. Now for my third page, this is my tank page here. And if you notice, I do also go armor penetration on my tank page. Now the reason I go armor penetration is I like to be aggressive with tanks early on. They're a little bit more bulky and beefy, so armor penetration allows me to be a little bit more of a threat earlier on than say your typical tank without armor penetration. I can still hit pretty hard with my auto attacks, and I can take a hefty amount of damage from minion attacks because of my armor, magic resist from enemy champions, etc. So I do go armor penetration on my reds. You could go armor instead if you feel more comfortable with being a little bit more passive, but I like to be a little aggressive with my tanks, so I do pick up armor penetration. Now for my yellows, I go armor, straight armor. This is pretty much a no-brainer again. With tanks, you want to build up your armor and magic resist early. And I am able to do this both through my greater seals of armor, and then of course my magic resist, which I go for my blues. So if you look over here, I have 13 armor and 13 magic resist built on top of my base stats. which really help you in the laning phase, because you can be aggressive and you can minimize the damage you take early on, both through armor and through magic resist if you're fighting an AP champion. And keep in mind, a lot of melee champions too have an ability that scales off of AP as well, and may come across and hit you as AP damage or magic damage. So even if you're thinking that you're fighting simply a straight melee character, for example, Xin Zhao, his Audacious Charge does AP damage, I believe, or it did when he first came out. I haven't looked at it since then, but any kind of ability like that, usually melee champions have one ability that scales off AP for balance purposes, then you're able to benefit from that magic resistance. Now for my quintessences, again, you could probably figure no-brainer, 78 HP rather, for my quintessences is going to help me bulk up that much earlier and be a little bit more aggressive for my lane mate if I am laning with someone, and be that much more aggressive in their face, and able to take that damage and regen it pretty effectively. So these are my 3 pages here. These 3 pages here will help you pretty much blanket help any type of champion you're going to play. The only time you would swap out some of these for a different type is either if you're playing a no mana champion, or if you're, for example, going to be jungling. Because for some examples, for my Nocturne, for example, I actually swap out the armor penetration for attack speed, because I like to have a lot of attack speed on Nocturne early for the jungling phase, because it allows me to proc his passive that much more. I have about 21% attack speed when I do that, and it's quite useful. So I hope you enjoyed my little breakdown of runes. I hope this, if for new players, really helps you out in picking your runes right. I see a lot of people who either go one straight page of something, or it's kind of too muddled. You have a half of your page of tier 3 armor pen, half attack damage, etc. And really kind of being concrete and set in your choices in yellow, blues, and reds is going to help you beef up your champion that much earlier in a game and kind of solidify yourself as a force to be dealt with. So if you guys have any questions as to why I chose certain runes, or if you have any additional questions as to why I didn't mention some runes like Critical Strike or attack damage, which there are specific reasons for that, mainly being that they don't give as much benefit early game and they can be superseded by items which you normally would get anyways, just feel free to let me know in the comments. I can elaborate on that just a little bit further. I just wanted this to be a little short video where I kind of explain my runes and such, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, this is Spunkify out. I'll see you later.